Back. Have you ever felt the sting of someone you love suddenly pulling away and your mind races with questions? Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Are they slipping away forever? Get back. What if I told you that their distance isn't always rejection, but a window into something far deeper, something rooted in the psychology of love and fear? If you truly want to understand why this happens, back, and more importantly, how to turn that moment of silence into a chance for deeper connection, back, then stay with me. Because what you'll discover today might just change the way you love forever. Welcome to Connected Souls. I'm Leila Hormozi, here to help you heal, grow, back, and thrive in love. When someone close pulls away, the first reaction inside is often fear. Fear whispers that you are no longer valued, no longer wanted, no longer enough. That fear is powerful because it comes from the deepest human need, to feel secure in love. Yet, withdrawal does not always equal rejection. Many times, distance is born from a need for protection, not abandonment. People carry wounds, insecurities, and unspoken struggles that build invisible walls around their hearts. Stepping back becomes their way of surviving when emotions feel too heavy. It is not about dismissing you, but about defending themselves. Recognizing this truth shifts the entire perspective. Instead of viewing distance as a verdict against your worth, see it as a signal of inner struggle. Everyone has moments where emotions overwhelm and the only response feels like retreat. In those moments, the silence or space is not about punishing anyone. It is about finding air to breathe. A heart that withdraws may be battling storms no one else can see. When you understand that, you stop personalizing the space and start empathizing with the pain. Distance becomes less of an insult and more of a cry for safety, and that shift changes the way you respond to it. Most people, when faced with withdrawal, begin to chase desperately. They demand answers, they press harder, they try to fix what feels broken, but pressure only pushes distance further. A retreating heart needs gentleness, not interrogation. It seeks patience, not urgency. Imagine someone gasping for breath. The last thing they need is someone crowding their space. Love requires space for people to return on their own terms. By honoring that, you show strength instead of desperation. You transform the moment from fear to understanding. Love is not only about staying close, it is also about respecting distance. True connection is built not just in presence, but also in patience. Sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing another person the freedom to step back. The fear inside may scream for closeness, but wisdom whispers that trust grows in space. When you can wait without panicking, you prove that your bond is rooted in something deeper than immediate reassurance. That steadiness becomes the anchor in moments of uncertainty. And in time, that anchor draws people back. Retreating heart is often a fragile one. It may carry past betrayals, disappointments, or childhood wounds that were never healed. When closeness feels threatening, distance becomes the shield. Back, not because love is absent, but because fear is present. Recognizing that truth builds compassion where anger once lived. Instead of reacting with accusations, you respond with curiosity. Instead of fueling the gap with frustration, you fill it with patience. This is where emotional maturity turns fear into strength. By holding steady, you allow space for healing. Distance challenges the ego more than anything else. The ego wants immediate answers, immediate closeness, immediate validation. But love is not built on ego, it is built on trust. Trust that even in silence, that connection can endure. Trust that space does not mean severance. Trust that love has the strength to bend without breaking. When you shift from ego-driven reactions to heart-driven patience, the energy changes. The relationship becomes less about control and more about freedom. And freedom, ironically, is what makes love stronger. Sometimes silence speaks more than words ever could. Silence says, I'm hurting. Silence says, I need safety. Silence says, I am overwhelmed. The temptation is to assume silence is rejection, but what if it is simply communication in a different form? What if the absence is not dismissal, but a signal of vulnerability? When you lean into empathy instead of fear, you begin to hear what silence is saying. And when you respond with kindness you turn that silence into an invitation for trust. Pulling away is rarely about the absence of love. More often, it is about the presence of unspoken battles. Everyone has triggers that awaken old scars. For some, closeness awakens fear of loss. For others, it awakens the memory of betrayal. The heart reacts by stepping back, not because it rejects love, but because it is afraid of losing it. That paradox is difficult to see in the moment, but it is the truth. The heart retreats not from indifference, but from sensitivity. And that sensitivity deserves compassion. Think about how different the world would be if distance was not feared but understood, if every act of pulling away was met not with anger but with patience. If instead of demanding, we started listening back. Relationships would no longer be battles for control, but safe havens for healing. Withdrawal would not destroy bonds, it would deepen them. Because every step back would be honored as part of the process. Love would no longer be fragile because it would be rooted in strength, not fear. And that strength would carry both people forward. Emotional distance is not the end of connection, it is an invitation to grow back. It teaches patience, it teaches empathy, it teaches resilience. When you stop fearing distance, you begin to embrace a deeper form of love, a love that does not cling but trusts, a love that does not panic but waits, a love that does not accuse but understands. That kind of love becomes unshakable because it thrives even when tested. And in the end, it is that kind of love that always lasts. When someone creates distance, back, the natural instinct is to close the gap by force. You want answers, you want closeness, you want reassurance right now. The fear of losing connection often makes people push harder, back, unaware that pushing only widens the space. Love is not sustained by pressure, it grows in the soil of safety. Safety comes from understanding, not control. The more you demand, the more fragile the bond becomes. Back, the more you chase, the more suffocated the other feels. True connection cannot be forced into existence. It must be nurtured gently and patiently until it blossoms freely. Control is rooted in fear, and fear is the greatest enemy of intimacy. When fear drives your actions, every word carries tension, every gesture demands assurance. But love thrives in an environment where both people can breathe. Back, think of a flower. If you grip it too tightly, you crush it. If you let it grow in its own rhythm, it blooms beautifully. The same is true with relationships. You do not need to grip them with control. Back, you need to water them with trust. When trust leads, control fades and closeness begins to return naturally. Understanding requires slowing down and choosing curiosity over reaction. Instead of asking, back, why are you pulling away from me? Ask, what might you be feeling right now? That shift changes the energy from confrontation to compassion. The walls that distance builds can only be softened by empathy. Back. When you choose to listen instead of demand, you create space for truth to surface. When you offer patience instead of pressure, you allow healing to unfold. Understanding is not weakness, it is wisdom. Back, and wisdom is what transforms conflict into connection. So many relationships collapse because people confuse closeness with control. They believe the way to keep love alive is to hold on tighter. But closeness cannot survive in the grip of fear. It requires room to breathe, room to feel, room to heal. By loosening your grip, you are not losing control. You are gaining trust. Back. Trust builds bridges that control could never build. Trust says, I believe in us even in silence. Control says, prove to me right now that we are okay. Only one of those responses strengthens love. Back. And it is always trust. Real connection is not about being physically near all the time. It is about creating emotional safety so that even in silence, the bond remains strong. That safety is built when you respond with calmness rather than panic. It is built when you respect the need for space instead of fighting against it. The human heart returns to where it feels safe, back, not where it feels pressured. If your presence becomes a place of peace, distance will always fade. But if your presence feels like a battlefield, the gap will only grow. Safety is the foundation that pulls people back. It is not easy to choose understanding when fear is screaming inside. The urge to react quickly, to demand clarity, to hold on tightly feels overwhelming. But in those moments, strength lies in restraint. Strength lies in pausing, breathing, and choosing love over fear. Choosing to step back instead of chasing endlessly. Choosing to soften instead of hardening. Every time you respond with calmness, back, you rewrite the script of fear. You show that your love is not fragile, but steady. And that steadiness becomes irresistible because it offers what everyone secretly craves, peace. Back, patience is the hidden power that saves many relationships. It does not mean tolerating neglect or ignoring your needs. It means giving the other person time to process without rushing them. Every heart has its own pace, back, its own rhythm of opening up. When you respect that rhythm, you create harmony instead of conflict. Imagine two dancers moving together. If one rushes ahead, the dance collapses. But when both move in sync, the beauty unfolds naturally. Relationships are no different. They thrive when patience aligns the rhythm of two hearts. Understanding does not mean you lose yourself in the process. It means you choose to respond with love while standing in your own strength. You are not responsible for fixing someone else's emotions, but you are responsible for your reactions. By staying calm, you protect your own peace while offering safety to the other. That balance is what makes connection strong. It is not one person demanding, but two people respecting it back. Respect creates the environment where vulnerability feels safe. And in that safety, closeness returns on its own. When someone withdraws, they are not asking you to solve their battles. Take that back at, they are asking you to hold steady while they navigate their emotions. The mistake most people make is thinking they can fix everything with words. But sometimes silence is more healing than speech is. Back, sometimes presence is more powerful than pressure. The gift of understanding is not found in constant talking, but in steady reassurance. It says, I am here, back, and I will not panic. That quiet strength is what draws the heart back stronger than before. At the core of every lasting relationship is freedom. Freedom to step back without fear of losing everything. Back. Freedom to breathe without being suffocated. Freedom to be vulnerable without being judged. When both people understand this, love becomes unbreakable. It is no longer a cage, but a choice. A choice made every day, not out of fear, but out of genuine desire. That is the kind of connection that cannot be shaken by distance, because it is built not on control, but on deep, unwavering understanding. When distance appears in a relationship, it often feels like rejection, but in reality, it can be a signal of deeper struggles within. People do not pull away only because of current circumstances. They pull away because of old wounds that have never healed. Past pain has a way of resurfacing when intimacy grows back, and fear of being hurt again often causes retreat. These fears may not even be consciously recognized, yet they influence every reaction. A step back is sometimes the result of scars, not a lack of love. Healing those scars requires awareness, patience, and growth. It requires both individuals to acknowledge their patterns. It demands courage to face the roots of fear instead of running from them. Only then can love find solid ground to stand on. Relationships are not about two perfect people coming together. They are about two imperfect individuals who choose to grow, heal, and evolve together. Back. Every challenge that surfaces is not an obstacle to destroy love, but an invitation to strengthen it. When one withdraws, it often highlights areas where both must reflect. Maybe there's unspoken fear, unmet need, back, or unresolved pain. Instead of seeing withdrawal as abandonment, see it as a mirror reflecting inner struggles. That mirror invites both people to work on themselves individually. Back, growth in love does not come from changing another. It comes from transforming yourself. When one grows, the relationship shifts and healing begins to unfold naturally. Back, focusing on your own emotional healing is not selfish, it is necessary. When you cultivate inner strength, you bring stability into the bond. If you are dependent solely on someone else's closeness for peace, back, then distance will always feel threatening. But when you develop resilience within, space no longer shakes you. You become the steady ground that love can stand on. That inner strength comes from facing your fears, back, not avoiding them. It comes from learning to soothe your emotions instead of projecting them outward. The stronger you are within, the safer the relationship becomes. And safety is what invites lasting closeness. Healing requires honesty. Honesty with yourself about what you are carrying. Many people carry insecurities from childhood, heartbreaks, or betrayals that were never addressed. These wounds remain hidden until love becomes vulnerable and suddenly they resurface. When your partner pulls away, it might awaken feelings of being abandoned in the past. The pain is real, but it is not always about the present. Recognizing this truth is powerful because it allows you to separate old wounds from current reality. Healing begins with awareness. Awareness turns into responsibility. Get back, and responsibility opens the door to freedom. It is easy to point outward when conflict arises, but growth begins inward. Ask yourself, what patterns am I repeating? Do I react with fear, anger, back, or desperation when faced with distance? Those reactions often push connection further away. By taking responsibility for your emotional responses, you change the entire dynamic. You move from blame to ownership, back from fear to strength. When you choose healing, you choose to break cycles that once held you hostage. And when you break those cycles, the relationship is no longer trapped by old patterns. Instead, back, it becomes a space for new, healthier ways of loving. Growth is not instant. It is a process that requires patience. Healing old wounds takes time, and love cannot be rushed into wholeness. Back, in those moments when distance feels unbearable, remember that it is part of the journey. Every relationship will face seasons of closeness and seasons of space. What matters is how those seasons are handled. If you use them as opportunities to grow, they strengthen the foundation. If you react with fear, they weaken the trust. Growth means embracing both the joy and the challenges, knowing they both serve a purpose. And with each test, love has the chance to grow deeper roots. Healing also means learning the art of self-love. You cannot expect another person to fill the voids you refuse to face. When you value yourself, back, you bring wholeness into the bond. You stop clinging from desperation and start loving from abundance. That shift changes the way distance feels. It no longer defines your worth. Back, you realize that closeness from another is beautiful, but your value remains even in silence. That kind of self-love is magnetic because it removes pressure. It allows love to exist freely, not from need, but from choice. Back, and that choice creates a relationship that thrives. The strength of a relationship lies not in the absence of problems, but in the willingness to face them together. Back, growth requires both individuals to be honest about their struggles and courageous in their healing. When distance appears, it should not be the end of connection, but the beginning of deeper understanding. The challenge is to not see it as rejection, but as part of the growth process. Both individuals must commit to becoming the best version of themselves, not only for each other, but also for themselves. Back, when that commitment is made, distance transforms into opportunity. And opportunity creates bonds that are unbreakable. Every retreat in love is a test of resilience. It asks, will you let fear control your response back, or will you choose growth? Growth requires choosing the harder path, patience instead of panic, understanding instead of anger, healing instead of blame. The heart that grows in this way becomes a safe place, back, not only for the other person, but for itself. Safety is what transforms relationships into lasting commitments. Without growth, love becomes fragile. With growth, love becomes enduring. Back. The power to shift lies not outside, but within. And when you embrace that, everything changes. In the end, love is not about avoiding challenges. It is about growing through them. Back. Pulling away does not mean the bond is broken. It means healing is required. By focusing on your own growth, you become a pillar of strength in the relationship. By healing your wounds, back, you allow love to flourish without fear. By choosing patience and understanding, you turn distance into an opportunity for deeper connection. Love that is rooted in growth is love that lasts, because it is not dependent on perfection, but on progress. And progress is what keeps love alive through every season of life. If this touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and join our soul family.